Hi, welcome to the Rittners School in Boston, Mass. I'm Dr. Steve Rittner, and it's a pleasure to welcome you into one of our classrooms today. It's spring here in Boston, and we thought it would be kind of fun to make a lovely spring arrangement. Now, typically, whenever we start a vase arrangement, the first thing we have to consider is a container. And you'll notice that we have here a very, very pretty pedestal container. We've got some foam in it, and we're just about ready to go. And in doing a design like this, what it generally is kind of cool to think in terms of is to kind of start with the fact that we are elevated a bit and to have some things kind of drip and droop. And to drip and droop, I'm going to start with a little bit of my foliage. I have here some of my silver dollar eucalyptus, and I'm going to put one piece on one side. I'm going to place another piece on the other side. This is just to kind of get us started. But we're going to drip and droop a lot more than that because we have some pretty amazing spring materials here. We have some lovely materials from a company called Blooming of Beloit, Wisconsin. This is spirea. It is absolutely amazing. It's a branchy kind of material. It's a flowering kind of material. Flowery, branchy, you can't get any better than that. And so what we're going to do is make use of some of our spirea and place it in here. And notice that I have a piece that's just going to kind of drip and droop. I'm going to drip and droop some of my spirea around over onto this side so that my foliage really is kind of secondary to my flowery branchy stuff. I'm going to take more of my spirea, and I'm also going to not only drip it on this side and this side, but I'm also going to drip a little of it forward too. So we're going to let this kind of hang towards the front as well as towards either side. And we're going to also take some of our spirea and work it towards the other side of the design. Now this design could be made as a one-sided piece. It could be made as one to be viewed all the way around. I'm going to do it kind of to give the feeling of all the way aroundness, even though we'll emphasize the front here. So notice that we're starting off having our silver dollar eucalyptus hang here, have our spirea kind of flowing down in different directions. It works really, really well for that. I'm going to take another little piece of spirea and place it over again in towards the other side of the design facing down. Now we have some other materials that we thought would be kind of fun to play with. There are all kinds of very, very neat spring botanicals that are available at this time of the year, and this is another variety of spirea. It is absolutely gorgeous. And we're going to reinforce our shape and our kind of pattern with some of this, and just bear with me, my viewers. I'll cut a piece. I'm going to place some of this kind of hanging out over here, and I'm going to place another little piece hanging out again towards the other side of the design. Right now, this doesn't look all that impressive, but as we gradually add more and more stuff to it, I think you're going to find this will get more and more interesting for us. And in addition to placing some of my materials in towards the sides here and draping over in different directions, I'm going to take another material, a flowery branching material. This stuff is called aronia. And I'm going to break down some pieces of aronia, and I'm going to just place a few pieces of my aronia over onto the top of the design so that in that way it gives a very pretty effect. And I'm going to mix with my aronia also a little bit more of my spirea so that I'm going to gradually add some of my branchy stuff and my flowery branchy stuff so that it's going to get to the top of the design. Normally this part of doing a design is called greening the base, but we're not really using total greens. We're using some greens and we're mixing it with some of our various kinds of branching materials, flowery branching materials, but broken down so that we can come up with an interesting effect. So you notice before I really put any of my face flowers, I'm coming up with this rather interesting approach in terms of what we're using. Now, we have other kinds of great spring materials that are available to us this time of the year. One of my favorites, viburnum. It is great. It's branchy, it's flowery, it also definitely says spring. And I'm going to take some of my viburnum and I'm going to work some of my viburnum into this design. And you're going to see as we go along, my viewer, this is going to give us a really, really great opportunity to play with all kinds of spring materials. One of my favorite spring materials, of course, is something that smells so good, and we have it around this time of the year, some of our lilacs. And so let's take a piece of our lilac and work lilac into our arrangement. And then let's take another lilac piece and work it over onto the other side of our design. In other words, I'm taking it, I'm letting it just kind of go and drip and droop and fall with the way that my spirea is working. I'm also going to take a piece of my lilac and work it in towards the other side of the design. So I've got this kind of hanging over onto this side, so that you can see this is definitely giving us a very, very nice kind of casual and very, very pretty effect to our design. Now, what other things can we work into our arrangement? Well, now that we have pretty much the general form or pattern of the design, let's start adding a few more things to it. And of course, when we're doing that, I can't help but play with one of my favorite flowers of all time. And it's just a beautiful flower, some of our lilies. They are bright, they are bold. They're not really a spring flower. They're available pretty much through the year, but that doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, they're a pretty flower. They give us a really, really great effect. And notice that by placing some of our lilies in here, that's going to fill up space very, very quickly for us and give a very, very pretty effect. Now, there is another flower that we're seeing at this time of the year that happens to be a favorite of mine, and this is from blooming of Beloit in Wisconsin, peonies. Peonies, they are coming out so very, very nice. They have such a lovely fragrance to them. And of course, if we're going to be doing any kind of spring design, we want to play with a few of our peonies and get some peonies into our mix. And once again, notice, my viewer, like our lilies, the peonies are fairly good sized. And because they're fairly good sized, we can get them in here. They fill space very, very quickly and give a lovely, lovely effect. Now, we could stop at this point if we wanted to, but wait, there's more. Let's play with a few additional things in our arrangement. And of course, one of my favorite flowers happens to be the rose. You never can go wrong with roses. They're a prestige flower. They're a national flower. People love them. And so let's get some roses in, and this will give us a very, very nice contrast in color, in shape, in form. And I'm going to work a few roses into our design, and I'm going to mix them through. And you'll notice, my viewer, that it doesn't take many, but notice that the use of the rose definitely is going to kind of give us a very, very interesting effect to our arrangement, make it feel really, really neat. Now, I'm placing a lot of my materials in towards the front. I do want to work some things in towards the back, so I'm going to sneak a rose in over there as well. And then, let's see, we have another rose that I can play with. Let me add it over here into the arrangement, just so that it's kind of peeking through from behind on our design. Now let's see, what other things do we have? Oh, well, of course, one of my favorite materials around this time of the year, a flower that we all really enjoy. As I'm pulling it off my design bench, some of our ranunculus. Let's take a few of our ranunculus and work it into this arrangement. In other words, my viewer, when you're playing with these kinds of things, you can mix all kinds of neat things together. You can mix them together. You can come up with some very, very cool effects on your design by mixing a variety of different things. And don't worry about whether it's appropriate or whether it isn't appropriate. Just play with them. Get these flowers out and play with a variety of different things and enjoy the effect that they do give to our designing, because they do add so much. Each flower, each botanical brings something unique to the design table, and in the process really allows us to come up with some really, really pretty effects. So notice, my viewer, that with a few ranunculus worked here and here and here, it gives us an interesting effect. Now, what other things do we have? Well, I have a little bit of our viburnum. We used a little viburnum, I believe, earlier. Let's take a little bit more viburnum and add it in here, because that will help fill the design, add additional texture to our arrangement, fill it in a little bit. And one of my favorite flowers, of course, that we have available at this time of the year, a really, really pretty one, allium. Allium certainly is a very, very nice spring material, and I love them. They have a very distinctive shape to them, and so I want to get a few allium into our arrangement as well. And so I'm going to take one, I'm going to place one over here, I'm going to place another one kind of in towards the back part of the arrangement over here. Let's get another allium in, and just bear with me, my viewer, while I'm cutting them as I get one over in here. Notice how it's just peeking through from this side. It gives a really, really cool effect. Let's get another one of our allium in here, and I'm just going through my design bench to find some materials here, and I got one right here. I think that we've got a lot going here, but I want to get one over behind here, so I'm going to sneak another one in right over here. See it, my viewer? So it gives a really, really neat effect. Now, another flower that we have available to us at this time of the year, and it's available pretty much throughout the year, is, of course, our gerbera. So let's get a gerbera into our mix. And I'm just looking to see where would be a good place. I think I'm going to fit one in right about over here, so it can kind of peek through in terms of giving us an effect as well. Notice the gerbera just kind of peeking through very, very nicely for us. Now, one flower that everybody is always picking on, but I think that it's not really fair, our carnation. Carnations come in a huge range of colors. They're pretty. They give great value. They are very reasonably priced, and so I think we're going to get this guy in a little bit closer. We're going to sneak in a carnation into our mix as well, and so we have a little carnation just kind of peeking through. I'm going to add a little bit more of my viburnum, adding it right here, so that we have some really kind of coming through over onto this side. And you can see, my viewer, this is coming out very, very nicely as we continue to add a few more odds and ends to our design to really come up with a lovely composition. What do you think, my viewer? It's pretty, isn't it? Now, this design would work very nicely as a placeholder on a table. It could be used on a mantle. It could be used on a sideboard. It works very, very well. If I were going to use this for anything outside of demonstration here, I would make sure I add a few more flowers around the other side, and also make sure that any mechanics are covered with a little bit of foliage. But I think, my viewer, you guys can get the idea on this. Quick, easy, fun. That's the Rittners School way. It's my hope, my viewer, that you enjoyed this brief demonstration. At Rittners School, we believe that floral designing should be quick, easy, and fun, and I hope that you enjoyed this brief presentation of a lovely spring arrangement. Go out, grab some of these spring flowers like allium, ranunculus, spirea, some of our lilacs, things like this, peonies. Go out and play with some of these things and come up with your own spring arrangements, and I think you'll really have a great time in doing so. On behalf of all of us here at Rittners School, I'm Dr. Steve Rittner. We thank you for coming in and visiting our school today.